Welcome back to Rookies Live. Thanks for joining us again today. Today we're wrapping up our series on how to learn visual effects online. My name's Andrew McDonald. I'm one of the co-founders of the Rookies, and I'm here with the other co-founder, Alan Hunt.
Cool. Thanks for the intro, Andrew. Really excited to talk to Gabriel Providel today, who's the founder of Mosaic Play. What I'd love is, Gab, if you can tell us a little bit about your history. You know, you've got an extensive portfolio of education, and we'd love to hear more about what your background is, where you've come from.
Excellent. Thanks for the invitation, guys. Yes, my name's Gabriel Providel. I've started Mosaic Play only about a year ago, and I've been really involved with international education for the last 18 years, really, working with great schools across the globe, and over the past couple of years, concentrating and focusing on schools in the creative industry space. So I come from that background of the mix between creative and business management, and I've always been passionate about the creative industries anyway. So, the Mosaic Play is really a result of my three passions, which are international education, creative industries, and technology. I'm a producer myself. I studied as well screen filmmaking producing here in Australia at AFTRS. So everything's kind of been working towards us building a platform, which we'll talk about for sure today, supporting students so they can actually pursue a career in the creative industries.
Yeah, fantastic.
And what level were you working at, Gab? Like, what was your sort of main job working in education?
Yeah, the last couple of years I was in senior management roles across large education groups. So I loved my job, really. It allowed me to travel the globe. I was able to travel, study, live in different continents, in South America, in Europe. I lived a while in Singapore as well. I'm based now in Sydney, Australia, where Mosaic was founded. But it was a great opportunity to be able to work with universities, private providers, public providers, small colleges, and be able to work with a whole range of different nationalities and domestic students. More and more you realize that the creative students, or people that want to pursue a creative career, had different needs from your typical student that wants to do more of the traditional programs like accounting or business, which is fine. But we found that those students that wanted to do the creative, regardless of what nationality, had specific needs. My previous jobs allowed me to travel and talk to students and parents and realize that the potential that there was around these creatives was quite interesting, regardless of what nationality.
So it sounds like you were saying you loved your job. So why'd you leave? Like, what was the trigger that got you to leave and set up Mosaic Play, which is your company now that we're talking about?
Yeah. So I guess it's the premise around, if you can't find your dream job, create it, really. And to a large extent, that's what we have done at Mosaic, because I've created a company that allows me to meet creative people and amazing people across all walks of life. It allows me to travel. It allows me to have access to incredible, amazing schools in the digital media, creative space. It allows me to meet partners like yourself. So really it was trying to create a job that I would know that I would love for the rest of my years in terms of working in the professional space. And there's a reason why we actually call it Mosaic Play, because I'm always remind myself and my team that, we want to enjoy the journey. And it helps when you are dealing and working with studios, with students in the creative space. So, and the need as well was there clearly in terms of being able to address the gap of the students being able to have the right support, either in their own language or support around application or visas or travel. There's a whole bunch of logistic questions that they have to answer. And I found that there was a need for students in this area so they can actually be rightly placed to the right school. So creating a job that I love that would allow me to have that access to schools and people and students that were in the creative space was an ideal situation. Now, this sounds obvious to me now, But it took me a couple of years to figure this out. But yeah, I think we're enjoying the ride so far. We started actively really just 9 months ago, although I've been thinking about this for 4 years. And we've got some great partnerships. We're working with great schools so far. We have a nice range of offices around the world. And we're heading in the right direction, I think. It feels good.
Awesome. And I guess for our viewers, they're probably wondering exactly what services, and what you actually do. What does Mosaic Play actually do?
Yep. So Mosaic Play is what we call a student placement agency. We counsel, support, and connect students to the best and most reputable creative arts and digital media schools from across the globe. And we do this service for free for the student because we get funded by the institution. It's our role to find the right course, the right school to the student, which sounds easier than the actual process, but it's a placement organization trying to find the right student to the right school, and the service for free, like I said before, to students. And the kind of questions that students or kind of support that students need are around what course should I study, what is the right school, what is the right location, help with their application, their finances, their application for visas, for insurance, for travel, for accommodation. There's a whole range of questions that students would have when they want to study either locally, because we support domestic students, or internationally. And when you have barriers like language, then it becomes even more complex. So we actually have 14 offices around the world. From day one, Mosaic Play wanted to be global. We had a global mindset, which meant that we were going to support students and connect students to a whole range of institutions across many countries. And we were going to source students and recruit students from many countries as well. So from day one, I knew that we needed to have a global presence. And we've got 14 offices. We've got either in partnership or 100% owned by Mosaic across Europe, South America, across the subcontinent, India, Nepal, Pakistan. And that allows us to be able to talk to the parent and to the students, and advise and counsel them what is the right course based on what their needs are, either in their own language or face-to-face, which makes a big difference when you are investing in something like a 3-year bachelor degree education in another country. So that's what we do in a nutshell. We support students to pursue a career that they would like. Many people have an understanding as to what course they would like to study, but there are so many options out there that we try to filter that and be quite honest in terms of our advice as to what might be the right school for that student.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, we've sort of obviously been aware of you for a while now, just from the early sort of conception and seeing you guys grow in terms of the service you're offering and, all these offices you're opening up around the world. We think it's fantastic. And I think the one thing that we hit is the hurdle where you're offering all this amazing stuff for free because, as you said, it's getting funded by the schools, which is fantastic. But it's really interesting when we sort of tell people about Mosaic Play and sort of tell them to go contact you guys. They can't believe it. They're very their first impression is like, no, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? What's this? And, I think this is why we wanted to have you on here, just to try and clear that up, because, I mean, this is a great business model. You have a great history and background in this area, and you've seen this opportunity, and you've got this great service that people can actually use. So touching back on sort of the whole student placement thing, how do people, obviously we'll give some details on how to contact you, but sort of what happens when someone contacts you? Do you have to know what school you want to do? Do you have to have experience? Is it just a discovery session? What's that happen? What happens there?
Yeah, it actually, there's a variety of different scenarios that might happen. Typically, if we are dealing with a student that's just finished their high school, for example, and wants to start a bachelor degree, what we want to find out from the student is really what study area are they interested in? Are they interested in visual effects, animation, games? They might have already a portfolio that we can actually have a look at and review it. And then based on what kind of course that they would like. They might be interested if they want to study overseas, for example, what destination would they want? Is it Canada? Is it the US? Is it in Asia, in Singapore? Is it Australia? Is it New Zealand? Typically, a student and parent will know roughly what they would like to study and where, although we try to give them at least 3 to 5 options for them to look at, because other elements come in, such as budget. It's not cheap to study overseas, any course really. There are scholarships available out there and bursaries, but still, if you want to apply for a visa, if you want to get accepted to any school, they typically would ask for you to be able to prove that you have the funding as well as the academic requirements. So we look at academic requirements, how they did it at high school, how they did with their creative portfolio. We look at their language requirements, if they're coming from an international non-English speaking country. We look at their portfolio. You can support with portfolio advice. As a matter of fact, you guys have been super helpful with us and been able to provide even more technical portfolio review for game arts or animation portfolios that we found from students from overseas. And once we have all that together, we then provide them with a bit of a study option and a study plan for them. So they or the parents can actually start assessing. This process is not an overnight process. Sometimes it takes 6 months, 9 months. It's a big investment for anybody out there, which is why we need to do the right thing of being able to provide the right advice for them. Now, many students want to go to the top ranking school, especially the top rookies ranking schools, which is what their first sometimes preference might be, but then we sometimes might give them a reality check in terms of what their actually portfolio background is, and we might be able to advise otherwise. So the profile is typically academic and creative, and on those two elements we then assess what the right school would be for them. The good news is that we currently have about 92 school arrangements across the world, in the US, in Canada, in France, in Germany, in Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, New Zealand. And we're growing. We're going to go from 92 to about 130 over the next couple of months, which means we will have a range of options for students across all these different destinations. There's always a right course for a student, and we are looking at courses that range from being a 1-year vocational course to a 3-year bachelor's to a postgraduate master's degree. So that's the high school student, but we also are talking to students that might already have a degree or professionals that are out there working that would like to upgrade and finish off with a postgraduate, a graduate diploma or a master's degree. They might not necessarily, especially in the digital media space, have had the degree once they finished high school. They've got this amazing work experience as they've been working at studios, and they just want to top up, for example, or they want to consolidate their experience with a 1-year, 6-month graduate diplomas. So we have a good range of courses around those areas as well.
Yeah, awesome. So you touched on it before, Gab. You were saying that, you've got locations around the world. Like, where are they? And can you talk about, like, the types of people that are working there? Obviously, it's great to have local people there that can speak the language and all the rest of it. Can you just tell us more, expand a little bit more about the locations that you're in?
Yeah, we currently have 14 offices. We've got 2 in Australia, 3 offices in Europe. We've got about 5 or 6 now in the subcontinent, India, Nepal, Pakistan. In Europe, it's Spain, Italy, and France. And we have 3 offices in Latin America, where the main office is in Colombia right now. Some of them are in partnership with other student placement businesses that don't focus on creatives, but in this partnership, we work together and we are able to provide that in-market, face-to-face counseling session. We've got a great team, actually. Every single person that works within Mosaic loves the creative industries, loves this space naturally. So it's taken a while for them to understand, and for us, it's very important to get the right training from the school so we understand which course fits different people at different entry requirements from the student. So the first part of hiring someone or being able to roll out this process of having global offices was to train the counsellors on specific areas so they are very well versed in terms of what they should be saying about a school, because to a large extent, we are representing the school. We are the face of the school in that market. So we need to know what we're saying. At the end of the day, the admission is always vetted, and the final decision for a student entering a school relies on the admissions team of the school. We do our best to get the student paperwork and advise them and put a study option together. We send it to the school, and the school at the end of the day decides. So we are only funded through a success model that our students are the right fit for that school. So the training for our staff has had to be quite thorough. We have systems in place where we can all look at the latest information about what's happening, what the entry requirements are for particular schools. So we've got these, I'll give you an example, the team that we have in Colombia, for example, we actually run a lot of our digital marketing campaigns from Latin America. We have Luis there that is a bit of a guru around putting video productions together very quickly, launching campaigns that are quite engaging. If you look at our website, if you look at the events that we've done through our virtual webinars or our campaigns, we've always tried to have that element of design and creativity across whatever we do, including marketing campaigns. And that team started from scratch, and now we are doing campaigns globally from this one office in Colombia that is really pushing out really amazing information about these great schools that we are working with. So we've got a range of counselors, a range of marketing people. We've got people that are out there, including myself, working and trying to expand the relationships that we have with schools. So trying to bring out schools that have that kind of expand our portfolio of inventory of courses that we currently have. But it's still a relatively small team. So effectively, besides these 14 officers, we only have about 4 people working back end, the admin, the systems and processes for what is a fast-growing company. We're trying to keep ourselves lean, and the internet and platforms and technology helps a lot. Just like you guys, when I first came across you guys, I thought it was a team of 20 people behind the scenes with everything.
It is. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I do the work. I do the work of 20 people. Macca does the work of 1.
We're quite lean, but we're all very passionate about what the mission is to, at the end of the day, allow these potential creative rookies really to connect themselves with great courses so they can actually pursue a career in the creative industries. Because one of the drivers at the beginning for me was when I was in international education, I came across so many students that wanted to study, animation or games or filmmaking, but either their parents, especially from certain regions around the world, their parents wouldn't either think that that's the right career to pursue, or they convince them that they should follow other paths. When I think these days, I think it's more accepted that students pursue a career down the path of digital media. It's easy to travel now these days to other regions. It's more accepted. So we play a part in terms of providing as much of that information up early, so the student and parents actually make the right decision from day one.
Yeah. I mean, it's super impressive what you're working on and how we've sort of seen you grow. And you're obviously relatively new, but got, all these officers, this great team. Has there been enough time at the moment for you to, I guess, have some success stories? Like, is there some people you could talk to us about that have sort of approached you, maybe had no idea where they want to go, how they want to learn, but they just have the passion, and how you've sort of helped them get where they are now?
Yeah, we do actually. It's interesting because when we get the inquiries, either through you guys or any one of our offices around the world, we can get an inquiry, anything from, I would like to study overseas, what are your options? And that's it, which, the options will be thousands. Or someone that comes in and knows exactly, I would like to go to this school, I want to start in this intake, and what do I need to do to make that happen? So you've got this range of potential students that would love to pursue what they want in terms of what they initially might think is the right course, but we might be able to advise otherwise. Our first student ever actually got accepted into Noman, which, as you guys know, is a great school out there. And, for me, when I thought about that, it was actually quite exciting to see that after all this work and conceptually thinking that this business actually makes sense, for us to be able to send the first student to one of the best schools around was a great achievement. And not only that, when we actually asked the student that got accepted into the course for a testimonial, because we worked with her for a couple of months, really, the feedback was incredible. You know, she actually was between a whole bunch of options from an academic point of view, but she also had some personal reasons as to what wasn't sure what to choose from based on personal reasons. So we try to advise as much as possible, you know, what the facts are. It's at the end of the day, it's up to the student to decide. We don't push any particular school. It's not what we do. And we try to give out all the honest feedback for them. So she got accepted. And just like that, once we had that first student, we started to get a whole bunch of students that had made a decision based on their original plan of being able to study there, but they didn't know how to actually process or help them with visas, for example, help around financial means. But there were a lot of students that actually initially thought that they wanted to go somewhere and then realized that that was not their best option. And so the feedback that we're getting now, because we mainly send students these days, our top destinations at this point is Canada and France, which is surprisingly, actually. France was never on my radar, but that's because we work with, you know, 2 or 3 of the best schools there. The feedback that we're getting from students when initially they thought they wanted to go to this big destination school with a big city, when they, matter of fact, they're actually enjoying their time in a city that actually fits more their personal needs. It's more of a smaller community, and the student class size is smaller. Well, other students really want that, you know, a vibe of a city like New York or LA or Vancouver. So we are getting great feedback in terms of services. You're right. Look, the fact that it's free for them, I think, makes a big difference. It's not free for them to study, of course. And we're upfront as to what that cost would be. But it's a model, I think, that works well for guiding students that have so many variables to choose from. We've had feedback from students from South America. The other good thing about this is that a language is not a barrier for you to start. Many of the students that we deal with don't have the English, which, by the way, our mission down the track is to actually have non-English speaking schools as well within the platform. The idea is, if you're a great school, if you're delivering schools in the areas of creative industries, you know, one day it will be great to have a nice portfolio of all those schools. So the best dance schools in Argentina, the best photography schools from Czech Republic, etc. But right now we have a group of international students that also require English. We've just arranged some great partnerships with the largest English language centers in the world. So now a student can start their English for a couple of weeks before they actually start their degree in any one of these schools that we have aligned ourselves with.
Cool. Just to touch on the free component, Gab, I just want to break that down for my own sort of personal clarification, and obviously for the viewers that are watching as well. So when it's free, I mean, are they paying for visa applications? Are they paying for flights? Are they paying for accommodation? What is free? Like, can you just explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so we pay for everything. We pay for all the calls. We pay absolutely. Wouldn't that be great? So the counselling service is all for free. So they would come to our offices or via, video conference, and we will provide all the advice. And that advice might take anywhere from 1 week to 9 months. All that is for free. Counselling the students in terms of what are the right courses for them based on the feedback that we've got on their profile. What's the application process? We can help them with the application process and literally helping them fill out the right details in that application process. We will provide support in terms of what they need around their visas, which is really important as well, because if a Colombian student wants to go and study to Canada, the visa requirements is completely different from that Colombian student if they want to go and study in Australia or the US or Singapore. So every single country has got different regulations as to how they control their international flow of students. And we can provide that information because we've got these global offices and presence. So visa is a big support for them as well. The travel, the accommodation side of things. And many students need the funding. They don't have the funding. So we're trying to move into as well the financial support. It's something that we've been thinking about for a while. And if we are able to provide the right advice in terms of school and be able to provide the right finance advice or support for the student to be able to pay their course through a loan, for example, student loan, then that person can actually go and pursue what the dream course will be, and we will be able to help them with that process. So all that advice is free.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. But, it's just even thinking, personally, like how long it would, just to do a visa application, it's such, all these little processes add up to, like people even stopping from doing courses, right? Because they just get deterred because of all the paperwork and all the things that, most students wouldn't even think about. But no, it's amazing. That's a great service.
And even for domestic students, because there might be someone, that lives in Texas that might not know that there are great study options in other states in the US. So it's not limited just to international. We've been focusing more on international for some odd reason. I think it's because we've got this global presence, and I've always been in international education. But more and more, we're realizing two things. There's a whole bunch of students that are domestically, let's say Australia, that would like to study animation in Australia. And their only real way to find out what is the best fit is they either Google it themselves, or they get some career advisor from their school if they're still at high school. But besides that, there's nothing else. One of the things that we do at Mosaic, which is why we love working with you guys, is that for me, a school is a great school if the portfolio of students is amazing. A school that has great portfolio of students, that has great educators, and that students at the end of it have a job. If you have those three things, that means that everything else that you're doing is great. So even for a domestic student, it's really hard for a domestic student to go and Google and look at the portfolio of any school in Australia. Same for US, same for a European student. So we provide that. We like showing and talking about the schools to domestic students based on the creativity of students that are coming out of it. So domestic is something that's actually growing for us more and more. But the other thing as well is online. So we were always focused on campus, and we've always been focused on campus. But many of these schools actually have amazing online opportunities. So as you were saying, Alvin, there's a big decision here, and it's quite complex when you travel and accommodation and visa, and there's a whole cost that needs to be involved around living overseas. That needs to be saved as well before you travel. But another option for these genuine students that at the end of the day want the portfolio, want a great educator, and want to have opportunities of getting a job straight after is via online courses. And I have to say, we've come across schools that have incredible online courses. If sometimes their portfolio of online is better than the one on campus because they're solely focused on that. So it's an opportunity for us that I didn't really think about the online option as much, but it's turning out to be quite an interesting space. And I think if you're 25, 30, 35, 40 even, plus you don't have the time, the flexibility, being able to do something on campus, online these days is proven to be quite a good option.
And I think it's interesting. It's sort of what we've been touching on in this series. It's like there's all these schools out there that are vying to get into this space, and I think who we've been trying to speak to are schools that are well established. They know what they're doing. They've got a reputation. They deliver. They have, as you said, a great portfolio, stuff, all of it. But they've already been set up. And you mentioned before you're dealing with something like 70 schools. Out of those schools and the ones that deliver good online content, do you have some sort of schools that have been really impressing you lately that might have been a surprise, or some that are working on stuff that is coming up that's just as interesting?
Yes, there's a lot of schools. Our first introduction to digital media schools, schools in visual effects, animation, games, was through you guys, really. You guys you have the biggest community of students, I think, out there in this space. So for us, it was an incredible, really honor to be able to partner up with you guys and be able to be introduced to these great schools already through your support and your endorsement. So late last year, November 2019, we did this global road tours where we were able to visit a handful of schools that we initially wanted to work with. And that's proven to be a great exercise because the work that was coming through, even by researching the school from my end, was incredible. And now the work that's coming through the students that we've been sending through, their experience around being able to learn the practical skills of being able to, animate modules, texturing, and things that, I'm learning as well, even more, because my specialty was around filmmaking, but I've always been, interested in this other aspect around CGI, is great. So examples, even in the online space, like we were talking before, we've been working with Think Tank Center in Canada or CG Spectrum, that's an Australian-based company, and the learning management model, or learning management system from Think Tank, for example, is one of the best we've seen out there. Where students in this digitally savvy environment can actually learn through an online environment, either in a small group or large group, but still virtually. And at the end of the course, they can actually do a on-campus, one semester visit and mentoring program in Canada. So models around online and on campus blended, I think, is the way to go. Many of the schools are doing that as well. CG Spectrum has got great 6 months or 10 months courses, great educators, and you end up with a really good portfolio. But more and more, I think the capacity for a student to possibly start online and then move on campus, or start on campus and then move online, or a bit of both, it's great to see that schools are heading down that path, and that either way, that the quality of the course is not jeopardized for it, regardless if it's online or on campus. And the schools that we are working with have been putting a lot of emphasis of being able to produce a portfolio regardless, again, what format it is. Look, we work with the schools that we've been kind of endorsed by you guys. Great feedback, Artifacts in France, ESMA, Think Tank in Canada, Vancouver Film School, Langara CEA, great proposition in Canada as well, which is great value for money proposition in Canada, Australia, New Zealand Media Design School. There's a whole range of schools that are doing really interesting stuff in this space, and I think it's for them the challenge is to keep themselves relevant and looking at what the industry is doing, and how do you balance having great instructors that are great people at teaching and educating these kids, but also are informed as to what's actually happening out there in industry. I think it's an interesting balance for schools to be able to get that relevance from an industry point of view, but also not lose sight that you're still in an academic environment and you need to provide the right way of teaching that in a way that they understand. And these schools are doing a great job, really.
That's cool. Actually, I was just going to ask, Gab, like when, because each school obviously has a different requirement for what portfolio, they expect to see to get into these courses. Just high level, like, is there any sort of advice that you could offer people that maybe are thinking to, of putting a portfolio together, even on the most basic level? Like, would you go, you must have these 3 things? Or, is there anything that you could give advice to people that are, in a portfolio sort of space?
Yeah. Some schools don't ask for portfolios, which is great, but they do still want some level of creative thinking. And they will get that from an interview that they will do. So if they don't ask for a portfolio, you typically will have to do an interview, which is totally fine, as long as they see that the student has this intention or the creative intention, has a creative mind. But for the ones that do require a portfolio, if I had to kind of summarize them in 3 points, many of the students have great work out there, but they've got it scattered. So putting that work together in a way that's structured, well labeled, and explaining in your portfolio, what was the thinking behind this artwork? What softwares did you use? And possibly what you learned out of the process, and putting it in, uploading it, with you guys up there. So it's presented in a way that's quite easy for the schools to be able to look at what the kind of work they've done. I think a variety of work I think is good as well. Or if you're going to going deep. In terms of specialization, if they're just interested in this particular course, a short course in this matter. But I think schools I've noticed like would like students that have a nice set of variety techniques across their creative space. And I think the higher requirement for students would be at the master level anyway, at the postgraduate, where for those students, they have industry experience anyway, so they will come with a strong portfolio. But I think it's interesting to see that many students do not consolidate that, or don't put the way that they put their show reel together is quite important. You don't need a show reel of 15 minutes. Just have something shorter, but you put your best work there. Some people just want to put everything in their show reel, and you have to start strong because just like industry and studios, the admissions office of any school, especially the popular schools, are quite busy, and they will want to see their best work up front and in a succinct way that actually grabs their attention. And so this student is worthwhile. This is a student that we know will be someone that with our teaching will become a great graduate and an alumni for us that will be able to be our endorsement ambassador out there. So, just shorten those show reels, put your best work forward and label them, and present them in a way that's quite engaging. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, cool.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it's solid advice, and it rings true with sort of most professionals that we speak to, and it's definitely what we suggest people to do. And whether it's at the Rookies or somewhere else, it's just about the presentation. Even if you don't have all this CG experience that you want to learn, I think it's just trying to show passion as well, that you're actually interested in this and you're trying things. You might not be trying the right stuff, but it's all testing and it's all just playing and, trying to figure out what, you're good at and what you're interested in. So I think it's, really solid advice.
And our help can come in many ways right at the front, because these students might actually be shy or quite introvert, and that doesn't mean that they will be great at what they do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a matter of kind of getting it out there and structuring that presentation.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're at the face here, like dealing with a lot of these students on the phone, through email, your staff are really trying to help them through this. And as you said, a lot, a little shy, unsure. What advice would you give them? Because I know it's always a tough one for people to have confidence, because a lot just think, my work is no good. There's no way I could do that. What advice would you give to those people? Because we know they've got it in them and sometimes they can't see it. But would you have advice for them on, taking that chance, reaching out to you guys and seeing what's possible?
Yes, exactly that. I think it's an advantage for us having a local presence, sometimes in their own language, so they can actually feel more comfortable in being able to put forward what they would like to do, or what they have done in terms of creative work. And I think what we've been doing a lot as well lately is the more you experiment, the more you do things, the more you realize that you can actually, especially in these kind of courses that they're doing, get better at it. I always say that good judgment provides experience, but then also experience comes from bad judgment. So from the student's perspective, just try and put things in a piece of paper, do your drawing, and then we will be able to provide you that professional advice. Matter of fact, many of the cases we send it to you guys, who provides even more the technical advice. But it's more, the advice is really just put something out there, because it will help you also realize what are your strengths. Is it drawing? Is it around games? Is it around animation? Because they might not know at that stage what it means. The great thing about these schools that we work with, and the advice that we're able to get to students at this early stage, is that many of the schools provide foundation courses. And foundation is a great way to start if you're a little bit more introvert, or you're not 100% sure what you want to do. Basically, all of these schools provide a foundation, which is more of a generic first year or first 6 months of getting exposed to a whole range of different techniques and core study areas. And then for you the second year to be able to feel that confidence and more security as to what kind of path that you would like to pursue. And we have as of lately, recommended a lot of these foundation courses. It does extend the course possibly another year because you need a foundation, and then if you have to do a degree on top of it. Although there are models, especially in Australia and New Zealand, where that first year can be integrated within the 3 years. But we've noticed for students that are straight off high school are a bit more shy and are not sure as to where to go. At the end of the day, it's up to them to kind of get that self-confidence. We can provide them the advice, but the advice is that we're giving is that confidence might come through doing this foundation pathway before you actually go and do the degree that you might not be sure about. So it's a model that's worked really well for us lately.
That's really great advice. I think, any foundation course to really explore what, disciplines that you might want to specialize in is a good foundation. And, even having that foundation when you have specialized to know how the other departments and how everything else works is a really solid grounding. So I think that's really great advice, Gab.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fantastic. Look, honestly, I think that's been super insightful. I'm glad we sort of had the opportunity to get you on here to sort of explain things and introduce you because, both Alan and I are huge fans of you, what you're doing, and I think you're only going to keep growing, which is great. And we love being able to, tell people about you because it kind of we can suggest things and we have our rankings and all these things, but the service you guys offer is beyond anything we're capable of. You just take it to the next level with that, one-on-one and just being able to figure that whole student placement out. So, huge congratulations on quitting your awesome job you had and starting this up and seeing where you can go with it. Job. But, yeah. No, it's really cool.
It was a big gamble, but it was a conscious gamble, I think, and it's proven to be the right decision. I love my 18 years of being able to be a professional in the international education space, but this is exactly what I was planning to do, and I'm loving it. And really, just to kind of like from my end, one of the biggest reasons or the triggers for me to kind of take the big step was exactly a year ago. When I actually met Alvin from Rookies for the first time. I was actually thinking about this. It was April last year when we met at CG in Melbourne.
CG Futures in Melbourne. Yeah, we had lunch. That's right. Wow.
And I came up with a lame excuse of that I wanted to hook up with you and talk to you about one of the schools that I was working for then, so that school can work closely with you, which is actually a genuine excuse. But it was really more about to see if we were able to somehow partner up, because I had been following you guys for a while. You've been around for now 10 years. And when I came up and with the concept of Mosaic, one of the key things for me was to talk about portfolios of students. That's the best way to showcase the school. And you guys were doing that already. So I was following what you guys were doing, and I knew that you are amazing in being able to get students excited at that discovery stage. Your blogs, your community kind of gets people excited. But I also felt that, there might be a gap there between that excitement and be able to actually enroll a student that would be interested in applying. So when we met up, you highlighted to me, well, this makes sense, the partnership. They discover what they want to study in this area, we can help them with the portfolio advice, and you do all the back end and counseling for free for students, and we will support them all the way through. So this partnership was made in heaven, really, and so far it's been great. And the fact that you guys have introduced Mosaic to these great schools, and we've kind of kept it limited because you have more than 500 schools, I think 400 schools, but as we agreed, we'll just work with the ones that we think we can work initially with. And that was really, it was exactly a year ago. So a lot's happened in between.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I think I paid for lunch that day too, Gab. You owe me.
Yes.
Hey, and I didn't even get an invite for that one. I was back here working, so we need to sort that out.
It was a good lunch, by the way. It was actually really good.
No, I love it.
Yeah, hats off to you, Gab. You've done well, mate. And, we look forward to working more closely with you in the future. And really, like you said, even in your career path and taking that gamble and doing what you're passionate about, I think, that would resonate with our viewers, knowing, hey, you've just finished one journey and you're looking to get into these new careers, then, being able to, have some hand holding on that journey, either through yourself or through the rookies, that's what we're all about, right? We're here to support that next generation of young people trying to get into these creative industries. So we love what you do. And, like Mac has said, we thank you today for coming on and talking about the business and your service.
Excellent. Great. I'm loving the partnership that we have as well. And, let's continue to do more things together. I'm sure in the future we'll be able to roll out a couple of these festival ideas that we had and creative expos, and we can do it jointly out there, which is something that we have discussed this, and I think will be great for students from different regions to be able to have one-on-one counselling and seminars from Mosaic, but also you guys will be able to support any advice or recommendation from your end to different students from different nationalities, because that's the creative industry is very open to any nationality, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, look, we might leave it there, but once again, thanks a lot for joining us today, Gabe. Really cool. And I know we'll be in touch, but I hope everyone else sort of jumps on and goes and checks out your website and just reaches out just to see what is possible. So, thank you.
We look forward to speak to anyone. Okay, mate. See ya. See you guys.
Cheers, Gab.
See ya.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.